just plain right. Well, welcome to Thursday. It is Thursday. All day long it's Thursday. Around here, we like to call that Thankful Thursday. Hit it, man.
You got to be more thankful.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. You're a gentleman and a scholar.
We thank you so much for this bountiful harvest of Domino's, KFC, and the always delicious Taco Bell.
Have you said thank you once?
Thank you.
Ah, there it is. Thankful Thursday. And that would be JP pushing buttons on the board, who I'm very thankful for. Hey, buddy. How are you?
Howdy. Thankful for you.
Thank you. Very glad we're thankful in the studio today.
Of course.
Yeah, we got a great show laid on for you. Thankful Thursday indeed. I'm thankful for what we got laid on for you. 3:30 as halfway through hour number 2 here. It's going to be Butters and Lee. It always is on Thankful Thursday. Butters and Lee, halfway through hour number 2, will be coming on. Questions and answers. We just sling them and see where the chips may fall. So yeah, Butters and Lee, halfway through hour number 2. And then coming up at the beginning of hour number 3, Congressman Gary Palmer calling in. And which has got to be really interesting because they had a major hearing on House Oversight. He's there. And today they called in 3 sanctuary state governors and had them give testimony in front of House Oversight. That's going to be, I want to get that broken down from a congressman who knows the deal firsthand. That's Congressman Gary Palmer calling in top of the beginning of the third hour. And then I still got a triple dipper just filled up with stuff. So hit it, man.
The Triple Dipper. 3 stories you've got to know.
That's right, the Triple Dipper. 3 stories, 3 themes, if you will, that you got to know as we run today's show. First out the gate, stop the madness. That's what I'm calling it. Stop the madness. So what's happening out in L.A. is not just confined to L.A. now. It's being found in other cities. We're seeing rioting, but L.A. is still the linchpin, the centerpiece, if you will, of the left's fight back. We're going to talk about that. And what does it take to put it down? Stop it. Keep it from going on. Well, I got several things to include the fact that 700 U.S. Marines are on the ground. We'll talk about all of it. Number 1, Triple Dipper, stop the madness. Number 2, listen, I'm not sure we can do this story justice, and I almost feel like we need to wait till tomorrow to see what happens overnight. But I think we need to talk about what is unfolding right now in the Middle East. So what we're seeing right now is a very tenuous situation. If you're not familiar, I'll just give you the quick and dirty of it. The U.S. has ordered the evacuation of non-essential personnel from our embassies in Baghdad and in Iraq, in Saudi Arabia, I believe, and in Qatar. And so this is a very dire situation. Why? Because we believe there's soon to be a strike against Iran by Israel. A lot of things unfolding on that one. We'll talk about Middle East on Edge, number 2 on the Triple Dipper. And then number 3, you know the deal. Every once in a while, you got to look in your own backyard, see what's going on. Well, there's some interesting dynamics happening in our listening areas on radio. So we'll talk about them by cooking up a batch of what I call home fries. So we'll cook up some home fries for you, number 3 on the Triple Dipper. All right, well, let me jump on into today's Rightside Way opening monologue. I'll remind you guys that attorney Stan McDonald is indeed a partner at the law firm of Wilmer & Lee. He's a long-time career veteran in the practice of law, but he's also a career conservative. So we'll talk about Stan more in a few minutes, but he is indeed the daily sponsor of the Rightside Way monologue. All right, let me just start by saying this. I don't know about you, but I've got a bad case of what I would call riot fatigue. I do. I'm sick of watching the progressive left burn flags, assault police officers, take over city blocks, bottleneck highways, generally create anarchy for no other reason than just to make their voices heard. Let me remind them all that the First Amendment does not afford them the right to break the law. The First Amendment is not a golden ticket to create mayhem and destruction. And I'm just personally tired of it. I'm talking about everything, not just Los Angeles. I'm talking about BLM burning whole city blocks in the Summer of Love in 2020. I'm talking about Antifa taking over city blocks and creating their so-called occupied zones in places like Portland and Seattle. I'm talking about Occupy Wall Street. I'm talking about Columbia, UCal, Berkeley, Harvard, other college campuses where skulls full of mush scream anti-Semitic slurs and insults and then tear up their campus grounds and buildings. I'm talking about it all. I've got riot fatigue, and I think that most of America does too. But I'll tell you what I'm also tired of. What I have no patience for is the constant stream of lies from those in the media and those in the elected Democrat establishment who try to downplay the destruction. Well, it's not just everywhere, they say. Most of Los Angeles is actually peaceful, they say. It's only a few, they say. I mean, try to tell that, if you will, to the folks who are stuck in the melee, the folks whose businesses burned. Try to tell that to the folks that lost everything in the few instances of largely peaceful protesting. And look, I support the right to gather, to speak out. I support the right to peacefully protest. My wife has stood outside abortion clinics as a pro-lifer before. I gathered on the steps of our state capitol to pray with thousands when Franklin Graham came through Alabama. I have rallied on the State House steps in Montgomery to speak to crowds that were gathered there for everything from school choice to anti-abortion issues. I get it. But this ain't that. It ain't. What we're watching in Los Angeles right now is not free speech. It is lawlessness, and there's a difference. So what I'm saying is that, yes, I have riot fatigue, but as much as anything, I think what I also have is what I'm calling riot revision fatigue. You heard me. Riot revision fatigue. That thing where the left takes a riot and downplays it to nothing but a largely peaceful protest. Or when they take a riot and upgrade it to a full-blown insurrection, whatever they need, right? Whatever they need. They take the moment, they take the riot, and they revise it to fit their narrative. And that's just as dangerous as the events that are unfolding on the ground in some ways. You see, words matter. Words matter when you get past the rhetoric. It doesn't matter what the lying liars in the media call it. It doesn't matter whether Nancy Pelosi, Maxine Waters, Hakeem Jeffries, anybody, AOC, take issue with Donald Trump and try to downplay the violence. They don't get the luxury of bending the truth unless we give it to them. In other words, we shouldn't give it to them. If they need a violent riot to be seen as peaceful, they're going to call it that, apparently. If they need a riot to be seen as an insurrection, they're going to call it that, too. But look, I can sleep in a garage and try to call myself a car, but I'm not. I can choose to call my dog a cat, but he's not. You can call a demonstration or a riot a largely peaceful protest, but it is not. Listen, I think back to January 6th. They called it an insurrection. It was not. That was a riot in some portions, and it was a protest in others. And I wish it had never happened. But the left, it needed it to be more. The left needed to rebrand it to fit their own narrative. As a practicing attorney, I know that I'm not allowed to get away with shenanigans like that I see in the pundit world or from Democrat politicians every day. I mean, like every single day. I mean, if I were to go into court and try to reframe an issue in the presence of the judge and jury to be something that is not, well, I'd be quickly subject to an opponent filing a motion to strike or a motion to dismiss or even a motion for sanctions. If I were to stand in front of a jury for my opening and closing comments at trial and try to recast the evidence in such a way that it was characterized beyond the scope of what the law and the evidence would allow, well, I'd face immediate objection, and rightfully so. In fact, let's do this. Let me lawyer this for a bit here. Imagine that we're in court. Imagine we're in court and all you right-side ruffians are the jury. It's my goal to allow the evidence to be fully shown, but to do so within the confines of the rules of procedure, right? The rules of evidence, the rule of law. So I might say something like, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, thank you for your keen attention to this trial. You've seen the evidence. You've heard the testimony. Truthfully, that judge over there may be the one who wears the robes, but you are, in fact, the most powerful people in this courtroom. You are. You are the ones who can choose whether or not to find guilt or innocence. Ladies and gentlemen, you have heard opposing counsel's position throughout the trial that we experienced on that awful day, that it was an insurrection, they said. In a few minutes, though, the judge is going to charge you. He's going to recount the law to you that relate to the matters that you have to decide. And ladies and gentlemen, I cannot speak for the judge, but I suspect that what he's going to charge you on is directly as to the law regarding what is actually an insurrection. You see where I'm going here, by the way? I feel certain that, ladies and gentlemen, that he will advise you that the lesser charges of civil disorder, disorderly conduct, entering and remaining in a restricted building, destruction of government property, obstruction of federal proceedings, all of those are those lesser included offenses, they call them. And they're actually governed under 18 U.S. Code 371. They are indeed crimes. But I also feel certain, ladies and gentlemen, the judge will advise you separately that any charges of insurrection would have to be governed separately by 18 U.S. Code 2383. Insurrection is in and of itself a separate term that carries a separate and distinct import in the eyes of the law. So if, in fact, ladies and gentlemen, you find that the evidence, when viewed in the light of the law, does not does not indicate that an armed revolt, well planned and coordinated, with intent to overthrow our constitutional form of government and replace it with another, if you find that the evidence did not show that to your satisfaction, that the events of January 6, 2021 rose to that level, then you must, in the furtherance of your duty as a juror, find the defendants not guilty on charges of insurrection. You see how that works? Imagine we're in court. I would have to actually stay confined to that. What does the law say? Well, they get to say the riot was an insurrection. They could say it all day long, apparently. Legally speaking, it wasn't. But you never heard anybody in the media say something like that, did you? You never heard Liz Cheney, Adam Kinzinger, AOC, or Chuck Schumer say anything like that, did you? Because the law defines the acts that we're seeing with our own eyes, but the riot revisionists, they get to say whatever they want to. Got a riot? Who's involved? Soros-backed Antifa, BLM, pro-Palestine, illegal aliens? Let's make that one a peaceful protest. Okay. Or how about this one? You got a riot? Who's involved? Trump supporters? They angry about the election? Let's make that one an insurrection. Okay. Either way, the riot revisionists spin their noxious tales, and the words of the black letter law mean nothing, apparently. And by the way, this is important. I got to point something out here. Keep in mind, of all the Jan 6 protesters whose lives were turned upside down by the left in their desperate attempt to make an example, not a single one of them was ever convicted of the crime of insurrection. Interesting, don't you think? And yet Kamala Harris is out there raising bail money for Black Lives Matter arsonists who destroyed urban areas. But the press will tell you in their riot revisionist way that if it was Trump supporters, it was an insurrection. But if it's the left, then it's just a peaceful protest. And there, my friends, is the rub. Any one of the left-wing knuckleheads that believes they can espouse their opinion on rioting should only be allowed to do so within the confines of what the actual law and the evidence says. That's the thing I'm getting to. That's why I'm so fatigued with this. Otherwise, they're just nothing but feckless word benders. They've got literally to make the choice to abrogate the truth in favor of some sensational catch-all phrase. And most of the time, the world just calls that spin a lie. It's either that or they're just stupid. Take your pick. But in any event, it still destroys their credibility because you see, words matter. I don't believe the events of January 6th were worthy of support. I don't support them any more than I would ever support the attacks on the federal courthouse in Portland or the burning of businesses in the so-called largely peaceful demonstrations. Great frustration and freedom of speech should never be allowed to combine into destruction of life, limb, and property, but neither should politicians and pundits ever be allowed to continue to skew the events into something they were not. There's an actual legal definition for these things. A riot is still a riot. You don't get to downgrade it or upgrade it just to suit your narrative. That's why I have riot revision fatigue. And that's a wrap for the Rightside Way. It's true. They can call it punditry. They can call it spin. They can call it puffery, all they want to. But the reality is, a lie is still a lie is still a lie. Call it what it is. And oh, by the way, the law already does. So why don't you take a look at it, especially those of you that are supposedly lawmakers. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. We are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid conservative, just plain right. Just pulling pins on truth grenades. That's what we're doing. All right, so I am back on, and I got to tell you about Attorney Stan McDonald. So he is the partner, or excuse me, he is the sponsor daily of the Rightside Way monologue. Stan McDonald, partner at the law firm of Wilmer and Lee, 30-year veteran in the practice of law, long-time conservative. I mean, he's been in the trenches, y'all, in the mix for quite a while now, fighting for the things that right-side ruffians care about. But yeah, Stan McDonald, as an attorney, he is there for you. He's represented his clients in like thousands of real estate transactions. He can stand up for you in any local, state, or federal court. I like to say if Stan McDonald's on your side, you're going to have no greater friend. Likewise, your adversaries would have no greater foe. So I'm going to tell you how to reach him. Stan McDonald. The law firm is Wilmer and Lee. Here's his phone number, 256-479-3020. That's Stan McDonald, 256-479-3020. And tell him you heard about it on Rightside Radio. I would appreciate that. Oh, yeah. No representation made. The quality of legal service being informed is greater than the quality of legal service for the lawyers. Stop it.
I guess another 10.
Just blowing myself away sometimes. Hey, so we're streaming a little different today. We've had a technical glitch, not of our own making, but one of the outside sources that we use for streaming is down, and so we are streaming only right now through YouTube and our website, correct?
That's correct,
All
yes.
right. So if I'm saying this to somebody who's on Twitter, they can't hear it.
Yeah, they can. So if you're seeing this on, if you're seeing this at all, you're only on YouTube. But yeah,
that's right. So yeah, YouTube and our website, rightsidemedia.org, has got the live stream right now. The rest will come back up when they said they're having a disconnect with their Google connection somehow. It's not our doing; it's their doing. But we'll watch them get it fixed soon enough. I got to tell you, there's a story right now that just broke like right as we were going on the air. So Senator Padilla, who is the senior U.S. senator from the state of California, is now speaking in Los Angeles in front of a press pool on the steps of a federal courthouse. The video that you have to see that goes along with it, though, is when he tried to bum rush the podium while Kristi Noem was speaking. And I don't know what he's yelling. Did you read the article? Did you see the article on it?
Yeah, I've not seen what he yelled, though.
Okay, so he was yelling, carrying on. Obviously, he's upset. Senator Padilla is mad at Kristi Noem because she was there doing a press conference about ICE doing its job, and he had some kind of issue with that. He was actually forcibly dragged out of the room by security and arrested. Well, they didn't detain him long. He's now on the steps of the courthouse giving some kind of a, I doubt if it's a mea culpa. I'm sure it's his, this is wrong and Trump is bad and illegals deserve to be treated with respect and all the kind of things that's what they always say. But that's what we're dealing with right now. We're not dealing with a rational group of people. These are not serious people. They're not. These are not serious people. They are not smart people. You cannot look at Maxine Waters and say, well, there's a genius. You can't look at Nancy Pelosi and go, well, I trust her. You can't look at AOC and say, I am so confident in your ability to preside over our nation's lawmaking. And you certainly can't look at Senator Alex Padilla, a U.S. senator of all things, trying to bum rush the podium and have to get dragged out of a room by security. These Democrats are not serious people. And if they get reelected, God help us. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. We got more. We'll be right back. Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Right Side Radio. Solid conservative, just plain right. Just covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Y'all, I'm talking about this show. This show goes like from Huntsville back on over to Chattanooga. I'm talking about from Tuscaloosa back over to Gadsden. I mean down to that loveliest little village on the plains we call Auburn, stretch across the border then to what we now call Fort Benning. Yes, once again, Fort Benning. And then big old patches of North Georgia and Mississippi thrown in just for good measure. All right, so, by the way, that's just the radio audience. And then all y'all listening online, streaming it online, catching it on the podcast afterwards, thank you so much for just making this show something that we get to enjoy doing with you every day. Text lines are open, 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. Text it, call it. Actually, you can't call it. We're still working on that. But nonetheless, 833-687-4448 to text to the show. Matt from Madison says, with regards to Senator Padilla being forcibly removed, I'll tell you more about that in a minute, by the way, updates. Matt in Madison said it's Padilla's Al Green 2.0. Yeah. Al Green is such a cartoon, too. I mean, at the very least, I would say that, Senator Padilla is more photogenic, but Al Green is just the caveman who wears a suit and goes to the, to the Senate chamber and grunts. I don't know. But yeah, we do have an update on that. So Fox News at the scene says that Padilla was indeed temporarily detained. Padilla is saying that he was forcibly removed, handcuffed, forced to the ground. Okay, well, I'm watching the video of you, dude, and you're fighting with police. So maybe that had something to do with it. I don't know if every police officer in that room, every security man knew what was going on, but when you bum rush the room and you start lunging towards the podium, screaming over the top of the Secretary of Homeland Security, you're going to get detained. I don't care rat squat for who you are. You're going to get detained. So he's now taking issue with it. However, here's the interesting piece. Secretary of Homeland Security, Department of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, she said immediately afterwards to Fox News that she went out of the room and had a 10 to 15 minute discussion with Padilla. Said they swapped phone numbers. Described it as cordial and beneficial. Said the senator had concerns about ICE operations, but they opened up a line of communication noting that things are okay. And then he went to the podium and he had to do a presser right afterwards. And the Democrats are now on the floor of the Senate talking about mayhem. Chuck Schumer demands answers. Whatever. Text lines again. First-time texter is in the line. If you wouldn't mind putting in Robert from Danville. Robert from Danville, we're glad you're part of it. He says, love your show. Heard you mention Adam Kinzinger. Yes, I did. So I wanted to tell you what a great guy, sarcasm, he is. He said, I think he says, I'm an Air Force vet and retired state trooper from his area. Oh, wow. So when my wife was killed in the line of duty, I'm so sorry to hear that. He said, my wife was killed in the line of duty in March of 2019. Every other political person from our state reached out following this except him. It did not matter what party lines were either. I'm thankful to be from his state, but I'm not there now. Keep up the great work, Colonel. Robert, thank you. And Robert, thank you for your sacrifice and obviously for her sacrifice. So blessings on you, man. Thank you for letting us know. Jeff Rowe from Indiana says, hey, Phil, with all the talk about due process these days, how come so many American citizens that were involved in J6 so-called insurrections were denied their constitutional rights to a speedy trial and sent to the dungeon conditions in the D.C. jail? Do they have a right to sue the government for denying them their constitutional rights even though they're now been pardoned? Yes, they do. Yes, they do. I think they would have an uphill climb, but I do believe they have a right. They've all been pardoned now, but it does not mean they didn't lose livelihoods. You know, they lost time with family. They lost a great deal under what the law might typically call mental anguish and emotional distress caused by the actions, which were, in my opinion, some of which were reckless on the part of the U.S. government. It was just, and they're going to claim some form of judicial immunity. They're going to claim that there's nothing there to sue for. And I would say that you are guaranteed to miss every target you don't shoot at. So if they need to go the litigation route, they're going to have a statute of limitations they got to work in, and they've probably got what's called notice requirements. Most laws require governmental entities to be given notice within a certain amount of time before you ever file suit. So anyway, a lot to unpack there, but Jeff, I think they have litigation potential. Jeremy from Madison says, oh, okay, yeah, it's a mostly peaceful mushroom, and he shows me a nuclear cloud. Okay. David from Buc-ee's says, Phil, I hope you've seen this. President Trump is planning to sell fast-track tickets to the U.S. citizenship for $5 million. I heard about that, but I don't know much about it. It's a special, like basically you can buy a special gold card called the Trump card, is what I'm being told. Is that, you know anything about it? And you can jump to the front of the line for your citizenship?
I can't remember how much you have to pay for it off the top of my head, but yes, that's pretty much how it works.
That feels a little odd.
It's like you can pay your way into. It's like one of his other ways of trying to balance the budget by bringing in more revenue. So we'll see.
Okay.
That's all I know about it right now.
I'm not sure how I feel about that, but okay. John from Minor. John says, I think they ought to evacuate all conservatives and seal it off and let it burn. Whoa. He said, none of them care, so why should American taxpayers? When the dust settles, rebuild with people with common sense. That place should be smote as Sodom was. John, don't beat around the bush, man. Tell us how you feel. Okay, there it is. Last couple before I go to the break here, 833-68-RIGHT. That's the phone number. Mark from Tony, Alabama says, Dick and Liz Cheney can pay for all the money and time from work, no doubt. And then Jeremy from Madison said $5 million to get citizenship with a gold card. That's what I was just talking about. Interesting. Like I said, I'm not sure how I feel about that. Hey, by the way, I got to tell you about something unusual for today, just so you know. A big chunk of the last half hour of today's show, I will step out. JP will have the con. I'll be doing a live broadcast on News Nation. They want some civil military commentary on the deployment of Marines to Los Angeles, et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, I'll be doing that. But JP can obviously run this show, and he'll handle the last half hour. And if I get done, JP, I'll come back in.
Sounds good.
Then again, maybe I'll skip out.
Either way is fine with me. I would skip out, but yeah, it's fine.
You would not. I know you better than that. Speaking of the Marines on the streets, let's talk about this. First Dipper, stop the madness. I hold here in my calloused former paratrooper hands a piece from Fox News talking about the fact that the Marines are not on the streets yet. And they're not. They're going through combatives training. Some might call it non-lethal use of force training. Training on how to deal with the broader issues related to civil military operations, responding to civilian authorities. It's a deal. It's a whole thing, man. And I will tell you that that's been a part of my military background. I've been called up before for riot duty in Atlanta, and it was quite a show. And we spent an entire, I would say we spent 24 hours or more going through non-combatives, basically how to respond to crowds, dealing with, using riot shields and all that kind of stuff. And then the other piece of that is lots and lots of discussion about not letting them provoke you into doing more than you should. And then the other piece of this is there's a mindset that has to be shifted. Marines are trained to be lethal, and they have to go and now be told for a few days you're going to be non-lethal. You're not going to see Marines out there just, putting down covering fire and doing an assault of the objective. But what you are going to see is them bringing law and order. So right now, Trump has activated 700 U.S. Marines to be deployed to Los Angeles. 4,000, upwards of 4,000 National Guardsmen have been activated. And they're all falling under what's known as U.S. Northern Command. So we have various commands. We have CENTCOM, which is Central Command. That's all the Middle East. We have SOUTHCOM, which is South America and Central America and the Caribbean. We have, of course, we have, AFRICOM and EUCOM for Europe and Africa. Northern Command deals with Homeland Defense. So NORTHCOM now has operational control of these Marines and National Guardsmen who've been activated. And I'm telling you, they're not playing, and rightfully so. I think Trump got himself a big old ration of what it's like to watch a city burn during the tail end of his first term, and he's like, not going to happen again. Not going to happen on my watch. And you may have people like Senator Alex Padilla and Maxine Waters and some liberal Karens who want to get out there with signs and protest. But the reality is the vast majority of America is like, yeah, shut it down, man. Stop the madness. Can we just please not lose one more business to fire? Can we just please not have one more car burned or one more interstate shut down? Because like I used the term earlier, I think the vast majority of America's got riot fatigue. We're sick of this. If you want to protest, you absolutely should. But why is it the left always feels like destruction is their means of communication? They're not out there shouting things that make sense. Standing there and blocking traffic while you burn American flags and wave Mexican flags, that's not free speech. What happens when the ambulance can't get to the hospital? What happens when the pregnant woman can't get to her doctor? What happens when the school bus is jammed up in traffic with a busload full of kids and they can't get them home to their parents? What happens when you have whole city blocks where the livelihood of people is being shut down, where businesses are being burned, where someone who was struggling with the American dream watches their dream just go up in flames? Because that's not freedom of speech, y'all. And the crazy thing is, I know I'm preaching to the choir. You all know this. Rightside ruffians, we know this. We believe in speaking up, but we don't believe in acting up. And there's a time and a place for civil disobedience, but this is not that. This is not civil disobedience. This is just flat out lawlessness. And so how do I feel about 700 Marines and 4,000 Guardsmen being deployed to the streets of Los Angeles? I say the City of Angels needs them. I say the City of Angels needs these guardian angels. They do. And right now we're looking at the Marines, they say, will be finished with their non-lethal training and ready for deployment by tomorrow. I think they're going to bring something else to the fray that will be very helpful. At the very least, it'll be a show of force. And we've been seeing overhead images of them training almost like of the phalanx, using riot shields and moving forward against protesters and that kind of stuff. And they're going to be there largely to protect federal property and to provide logistical support and to provide additional numbers to the police because, they need a break too once in a while. But it's not going to be arrest authority. It's going to be protection and ensuring that law and order is just maintained. We're going to take a break right now. We'll take the break. I'll come right back. Some of y'all are texting in, but I got plenty on this. Stop the madness. That's where we are. Riot fatigue, y'all. You got it? Tell me about it. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid conservative, just plain right. Just making common sense like a superpower. Here's one of the things I think would stop the madness. Find out who's paying for it. What do you think? I think that there are going to wind up being some investigations that we didn't have the luxury of in the Summer of Love 2020. Keep in mind, Summer of Love 2020, that was during the final days of a presidential campaign. There's a lot of distraction involved with Trump trying to get reelected, and then Trump didn't get reelected. And then at that point, what do you do? But if you remember the Summer of Love, we had brick pallets, like whole pallets of bricks just showing up. We would have literally, like U-Haul trucks would show up, and they'd open the back, and they'd be filled with shields and signs. We had, pallets of water. Sometimes we had pallets of frozen water they could throw. We've never had a full investigation as to how that went down and why it went down. Well, right now we're watching some of the same tactics going out again. I got a piece here from Town Hall. Town Hall points out that they said this is the same agenda that was behind the Black Lives Matter and Antifa riots across the country. Yes, it is. And those were in some ways, we believe, paid for by George Soros and other American leftists, anti-American leftists. But Ted Cruz on his podcast called The Verdict, Ted Cruz said, we want to know who's funding these riots. He said, these riots look to be, quote, clearly something premeditated and pre-planned to spread across the country. And he points out, all of a sudden we're seeing pop-ups, very similar, very much, alike in terms of their mode, their style, and even some of their participants. San Francisco, Santa Ana, Sacramento, Phoenix, Houston, San Antonio, Austin, Dallas, Seattle, Portland, Salt Lake, Detroit, Hartford, Boston, Philly, Atlanta, Baltimore, New York, Washington, D.C., Jacksonville, Raleigh, Louisville. Way too coincidental. I say follow the money. And by the way, Kash Patel says that's exactly what he's doing. So Kash Patel says he is actually following the money. Piece here from Drew Bergquist's podcast site says federal authorities are investigating the origins and funding sources of the recent wave of violent protests. FBI confirmed it is examining potential financial connections behind the demonstrations. How about that? Over the weekend, it says more than 1,000 individuals were involved in assaults on immigration officers, arson, looting, highway shutdowns, attacks on law enforcement. And we're watching as any number of things appear to be similar in style and scope. Now, there can be copycats. They can watch things on social media and go, that's a good idea. Let's do it that way. How'd they make their shields? Well, I don't know. Let's get an Etsy shield. Okay, they could try that. But I think some of it is way too similar. Some of the organizations to watch right now, according to this article from Town Hall, there's a group out there called the Party for Socialism and Liberation. Well, that sounds... the Party for Social... If that was only posters of Mao on the wall, I'm sure. Marxist organization connected to the Chinese Communist Party, PSL, has helped organize anti-Israel demonstrations on college campuses. Go figure. PSL is also tied to a broader protest infrastructure, they say, linked to something called the Singham Network. It's a coalition of nonprofits and media backed by a pro-Communist Party businessman named Neville Roy Singham. There's no telling how many of these rich anti-Americans are like in the shadows saying, just give them some money. Here's a check for $1 million. Get her done. And then there's this group called CHIRLA. CHIRLA, C-H-I-R-L-A. CHIRLA, the Coalition for Humane Immigrant Rights in Los Angeles. So CHIRLA, believe it or not, is one of the organizations very active out there in what's going on right now in Los Angeles. Very active. And yet CHIRLA, in the year 2023, got $32.5 million. $32.5 million just from the state of California. Why? To provide what they called immigration-related services. Are you kidding me with this? And now CHIRLA is helping stage one of the first rallies in Los Angeles following the arrest of certain people on immigration warrants. CHIRLA, funded with 32 million state taxpayer dollars, is now out there helping organize some of the events. Well, they're friggin' multimillionaires. This is just like when we funded Black Lives Matter. This is USAID money, you guys. This is just Democrat slush funds providing everything necessary for our own demise. Why is that? I'm just telling you, we can't doge these people fast enough. Can't doge them fast enough. Just doge the crap out of them. Because right now, you got the government of California funding the people that are burning California. And that is just wrong. Now, there's a hearing today, a big old hearing. We'll talk about it more when we get back. And then coming up later in the show, we have Congressman Gary Palmer on, who's going to hopefully give us some more firsthand information on it. But there was a hearing today in which you got 3 sanctuary governors, Tim Walz of Minnesota, Kathy Hochul of New York, and J.B. Pritzker of Illinois. And they're all got called in to testify before House Oversight today about their sanctuary policies. Y'all stay tuned. I'll tell you more about it when we get back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. just said. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Man, here we are in hour number 2 of Thankful Thursday. You know what? I just think we need to hear the thankful sound effect again because I'm thankful. Go ahead.
You got to be more thankful.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. You're a gentleman and a scholar.
We thank you so much for this bountiful harvest of Domino's, KFC, and the always delicious Taco Bell.
Have you said thank you once?
Thank you.
Look, I like that sound effect.
Thanks.
Thank you. I'm thankful you made that thankful sound effect.
I'm thankful you're thankful that I made. We could do it all segment.
We could the thankful segment. Yes. Hey, listen. So this whole thing about what's going on in L.A. and others. If you heard my monologue earlier, you heard me say that not only do I have what I call riot fatigue, but I have riot revision fatigue. I'm sick to death of the left just trying to describe something that we're seeing with our own eyes as if we're not really seeing it with our own eyes. And I have to ask, for AOC, who's not there, for AOC to tell us this is really not happening, and this is just tyranny, this is really Trump causing problems, this is not as big a deal as they want to make it out to be, then let me ask you this. Why is it then that Mayor Karen Bass just imposed a curfew? If nothing's happening, if things aren't bad, then why do we have to impose a curfew? Because here it is, I'm looking at it. Mayor Karen Bass, the feckless mayor of Los Angeles, finally, days into it, I issued a curfew starting at 8 p.m. for downtown Los Angeles to stop bad actors who are taking advantage of the president's chaotic escalation. Look how she did that. Taking advantage of the president's chaotic. Well, let me put it to you this way. It doesn't matter whether the president is doing something you don't like. If there are bad actors, which is her, by the way, her words, and there's enough going on, and that she literally says at the end of it, law enforcement will arrest individuals who break the curfew and you will be prosecuted, then you have to ask yourself, well, if it's a largely peaceful protest, why do we have to have a municipal curfew with threat of arrest being posted on the official social media of the city of Los Angeles? Because it's bad, that's why. By the way, Newsom has tried to sue the Trump administration, which just boggles my mind. You'd think for a second he might go, I need to make sure my constituents are safe. I need to make sure they're not, being burned to the ground. No, it's more about Trump. But Daily Signal has a story. If you hadn't heard this, the Gavin Newsom's office attempted to file suit and immediately seek an injunction to prevent the Trump administration from bringing the National Guard troops into Los Angeles. I mean, never mind, Title 10 of the U.S. Code. But a federal judge on Tuesday afternoon denied California Democrat Governor Gavin Newsom's request to limit President Donald Trump's use of National Guard. How about that? Can I have some applause? And I know what, I need a hallelujah. That's what I need. That's this. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Newsom asked U.S. District Judge Charles Breyer to limit the enforcement activities of federal troops to the immediate vicinity of federal property. The governor asked for a quick ruling. Well, he got it, and it wasn't what he wanted. So, yes, the judge's decision now to deny Newsom's request for a restraining order follows 5 consecutive days of rioting. You know what that means? That means the judge is like, stop it. For an injunction to prevail, there has to be an indication that the person who is filing for the injunction, in this case Governor Newsom, has what the law would call a likelihood of prevailing on the merits of the case overall. Meaning, he's probably right, we'll prove it out later, but in the meantime, since he's probably right, I'm going to maintain the status quo. I'm going to not let these things start or happen. Judge didn't do that. Judge looked at it and went, it's my courthouse you're talking about.
The George Wallace comparisons to Gavin Newsom, I got to say, that's pretty spot on in my opinion.
It's pretty spot on.
Like when it was brought up yesterday, I was like, I can see it. But then over time, the more and more we talk about Newsom, I'm like, yeah, that's like, it's pretty bad. Like if you're going to that length of suing the federal government for trying to stop your city from burning to the ground,
yeah,
that's pretty bad.
I don't think history's going to treat him well.
Well, it depends on what side of the aisle you're on, you know, because right now I think he's a Democrat's hero. He's standing up to Trump. So obviously on our side, if you're a Republican, then yeah. But unfortunately, I think he's getting rewarded greatly within his own party.
Did you hear the deep sigh?
I agree. I concur with that deep sigh.
Let me get some text messages real quick. John C. from Madison. John C. says, I think that a writer or a looter is identified. A writer? A writer or a looter?
A rioter, probably.
Rioter.
Yeah,
Thank you. All right, John, you're voice texting. I think that a rioter or a looter is identified and or caught. I think that their residence should be destroyed since they destroyed other people's livelihoods. I think a bulldozer ought to go right through their house while they watch. They do that in Israel. I'll be honest with you. Do you know that?
If they do what? Sorry.
Israel has had a long-standing policy. If someone commits an act of terrorism in Israel, they will take bulldozers and just bulldoze their house, just flatten it.
Yeah, we don't do enough of that.
That's some
I
street
guess.
justice right
Yeah.
there. You're going to ruin people's lives and livelihood. Guess what? You have no place to sleep tonight. Lower the blades, take it to the ground. John Huntsville says, Phil, spectacular monologue. Oh, this is an old text. Okay. Phil, spectacular monologue. Thank you. Also, did you hear that Beach Boys member Brian Wilson passed away at the age of 82? I did. By the way, he says, JP, the U.S. Open golf tournament has begun at Oakmont Country Club. Looks like the course is playing pretty tough, like a U.S. Open should.
It's the hardest course in the world.
That was a
It
very
should.
random mix of texts.
Yeah, it was.
We have the monologue, we have the Beach Boys, and we got the U.S. Open.
A typical John from Huntsville text
That's
to start
true.
the show, yeah.
That is true. Brian from Harvest says, this is something that doesn't need to be spoken about on the air. Okay, I'll come back to that later. Thank you very much.
It's like the Ron Burgundy read the teleprompter thing.
Yes, I mean, guys, when you send me a text, I'm reading as I go. So
That's my fault. I should have stopped you.
Okay, take a note of what he's saying if you don't mind. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I got you.
Brian from Harvest. David from Bucky's said, I thought the Marines' mission is to protect federal property in the area. As long as the protesters leave government property alone, they shouldn't have to worry about confrontation with the Marines. Yeah, except that the injunction denied the ability of the protest or the Marines to be limited solely to the federal courthouse. Jeff from Indiana says, Phil, they burn down things they loot because anarchists are drawn to the Democrat Party the same way that most evangelicals are drawn to the Republican Party. Well, now, just like libertarians would more than likely be a Republican and communists gravitate to the Democrats. It's all about who you most align with. Well, there's that. And they've got some wackadoo alignments, let me just tell you.
Well, speaking of that, I didn't know Karen Bass apparently was like in her communist party in college.
I'd forgotten that.
I had never heard that, but it had been brought up today, and there's pictures that actually back it up about how she began her career as a communist activist 50 years ago. And there's a picture of her in front of a sign that says Communist Coalition. So I guess this the way she's been acting, it goes right along with her playbook, apparently, what she's believed for years.
So she's probably read Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals, and she's all in for this.
She even ran with the Maoists in the 80s. A line of march named her as one of their own. So this is all what she believes, apparently. I didn't know
Mayor
this.
of Los Angeles.
Yeah, so that tracks with how she's been acting.
No doubt. Jim from Athens says, I saw a clip, forgot the country, that was using green dye on the water cannon so they could also be able to identify the rioters later. That's epic, except I think that'd be a heck of a cleanup on the streets. Next thing you know, you're like blasting the buildings with green dye. But
what if you're just going to the grocery store, you're walking past a riot, somebody shoots and you get splattered on a little bit.
Could be an issue.
You're like, hey, I was getting groceries.
Why are you green? I don't know. Chris from Starrett, Alabama says, can we just give California back to Mexico? No. California's got some good spots. Now we can give San Francisco and Los Angeles back to Mexico.
Yeah, we can annex the bad parts.
Yeah.
Northern California can be us.
Absolutely.
And then you can take the cities.
I want the highlands. I want the areas with the vineyards, the wine country. Absolutely.
Although we can't give up on California yet because they went drastically more red.
They did
this past election.
They flipped like 10 counties red.
It may take some time, but I still have hope.
But San Francisco.
Nah, that's a tough
Oakland.
one. That's L.A.
Those
are tough ones.
Make them a separate state at the very least. And then good luck to y'all.
The communist nation of L.A., San Francisco, and Oakland.
What would you call it? Sodom and Gomorrah.
Yep.
Kim from Athens says the Doge bill is. I had not heard this.
No, it
That's not.
didn't.
I don't think that's right.
It passed. It just passed.
Oh,
Yeah.
did it really?
Mhm.
Good deal.
It just passed the House.
Outstanding. Kim, why would you say this? Kim, why are you spreading false rumors?
Well, it was failing to pass. It had initially 6 GOP votes no, but then it went down to 4 GOP votes no. So apparently some people maybe flip-flopped their vote.
Okay.
But anyway, yeah, it passed.
All right. Wrapping this up, Matt from Madison says, can you explain the 29 Palms Marines to your audience? You know how high-speed, low-drag, highly motivated, highly trained war machines. I find myself almost feeling sorry for the rioters. Well, 29 Palms is a great place. Pendleton's a great place. Some people call them the Hollywood Marines because they're out there on the left coast. And then you got the East Coast Marines at places like Lejeune and Paris Island. But you know what, though? They're all Marines. And Semper Fi to them. I think this is going to be very interesting. And I just pray it goes well. I think it will. I think what's going to happen is they'll get there. It'll be a show of force. Ain't no one going to want to mess with them. And they're probably not going to take a lip. So there's that. By the way, JP, you saw, didn't you? I asked you earlier. You saw the video of the protester just getting completely pile-driven.
Yeah, by like a textbook tackle.
Aisle-driven.
Yeah, it was
It looked
nice.
like Stone Cold Steve Austin just put him up against the ropes, just like slammed him.
It was a nice linebacker tackle for sure.
It was. I enjoyed it. And it was a bystander.
It was, yeah. He drove the hips through, locked the arm. It was, yeah, textbook.
Hips through, lifted up, body slammed
He
him.
could have gone near shoulder, but we're being nitpicky now.
Tom with all the kids says, test, this thing working. Why is that happening? Tom, it's working. I'm not sure if you meant to send that. Joe from Athens says, why are you getting groceries in a riot?
That's a good point. Yeah.
Baby needs new shoes.
I don't
People got to
know.
eat.
I mean, if they're riding in front of the grocery store, you still got to get groceries.
You know what? Because we're supporting those businesses who need to be supported in times of need.
Yes.
That's why.
Yes.
And because they're having a fire sale.
Yeah, exactly.
Take me to a break, JP. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Coming right back for a short segment. And then, yep, Butters and Lee coming up. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. I mean, just like, making common sense like a superpower. All right, so all right, listen, I'm going to stop the Los Angeles rioting thing for a minute. And before we go to the next break, in which we will come back from it with Butters and Lee, I got to cleanse the listening palate for a moment. You like that? It's like going to a fancy restaurant and they give you sorbet to cleanse the palate. I sounded very highfalutin.
I don't even know what that is.
So there, I don't know if y'all are tracking this. Yellowhammer News has a piece on this, and I think 1819 has had a piece on it also. But it got way deeper. I've always thought her was a nice person. I don't really know her well, but there's a lady named Nicole Jones who now goes by Nicole Wadsworth because she's allegedly married to Representative Tim Wadsworth, state representative. She is running for lieutenant governor. Her credibility is falling apart. It's starting to feel kind of pitiful, to be honest. I don't know if you're tracking this. You've seen it too, right?
I've been tracking the headlines. I haven't gone deep into the articles.
Oh, God.
But I feel like every hour I see something new from Yellowhammer about it. I'm like, what?
So only in politics. I mean, you look at this, you go, how does this happen? How does this happen in life? Much less, how do you do it in politics, like in the public eye? Do you not think someone's going to check you out?
Yeah, you're only running for office.
Yeah, like lieutenant governor.
This stuff is going to come out.
So Nicole Wadsworth, a thing came out from her campaign last week, insisting that the press understand they should stop calling to her and stop referring to her without using her doctoral title. She is Dr. Nicole Wadsworth. I mean, it was like the press was being chastised. You saw it. And it was a little stern. It was a little over the top. It was a little bit like, I'm not sure I'd have gone down that road, because she immediately got lampooned. Well, it also got people mad. People in the media are like, well, where's your doctorate from? Thank you very much. Apparently she doesn't have one. What? Yes. So Nicole Wadsworth, now we find out that, it wasn't really a University of Alabama doctorate like she claimed to have. No, it was going to wind up being something from the Florida Institute of Technology, where she claimed she earned 2 other degrees, and it's an online-based seminary that offers degrees that are not transferable or even accepted by other universities, and they're not intended for employment purposes. Kid you not.
What does that even mean?
What it means is it's a piece of paper she got in the mail. That's what it means. And then it gets deeper. Because her entire staff quit today. Everybody, whoever she had. I don't know how big a staff she had. It probably wasn't big. Probably 2. But anyway, the guy who was in charge, he said he was stepping away along with other staff. They were not staying because there's too much misinformation. They can't handle the unfortunately persistent misinformation and ongoing internal miscommunications, which make it increasingly difficult to uphold values that they felt comfortable with. So they stepped away. And then, hang on, there's more. And then we get a big healthy dose of, who is she really? Now, I've met her. I've never understood what she actually does, because she would show up at the State House. She'd come by and visit my office. She would do that to all the senators, and just stop by and like, okay, hi, how are you? What are you here about? Well, I'm Nicole Jones. That's great. What do you do, Nicole? Well, I'm Nicole Jones. Okay. And I don't understand it. Now we're finding out that, a lot of her life is in question. She has 3 businesses under her name. We're not sure what they do. She says she never ran for office before, except she actually did run for the state Senate, and she actually did run for ag commissioner. And then now we're also finding out that she's married to State Representative Tim Wadsworth and uses his last name, but there's no record of a marriage certificate anywhere in state records. So Yellowhammer is doing a complete dissection of her life.
Are we sure she's a real person? Are we even sure of that? I mean, you claim to have seen her, but it could have just been a figment of your imagination, because I don't even know. Is everything about her a lie?
I don't know. It's a little scary, to be honest. And I'm not sure how in the world you get out there in the public eye. I mean, listen, I don't mind anybody going online and doing alternative education. I don't mind anybody getting, continuing ed. But if you're going to claim a doctorate, and then the doctorate turns out to be not from where you said it was, and then, oh, by the way, the doctorate turns out to be not to be real, and you still want to be called doctor, I would second guess why you're even putting it on your resume. just use it as one of those neat things you did and you and your kids looked at, and leave it at that. Weird story. Coming up next, Butters and Lee. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. To Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. Just covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Y'all, I'm talking about this show. I mean, it goes like from Huntsville back on over to Chattanooga. I'm talking about from Tuscaloosa back on over to Gadsden. I mean, all the way down to that loveless little village on the plains we call Auburn, straight across the border from there to what we call, once again, Fort Benning. And then big old patches of North Georgia and Mississippi all thrown in just for good measure. And oh, by the way, that's just the radio audience. We got a ton of y'all that watch and stream online daily or pick it up in podcast form thereafter. Thank you all for making this show so successful. Let me just say, there's peoples in the background sometimes doing things. You might not even be aware how integral they are to the team. Well, two of them come on every Thursday. You know them and you love them. And let me just go ahead and call the roll. Coming in from Huntsville, Alabama, in the northern reaches of the Tennessee Valley, that would be the diva of political punditry, Lee from Huntsville. Are you there?
I am here.
You are indeed, and we're glad. All right. And then turning my attention to more local but yet smooth and buttery, that's B. Butters. Butters, are you there?
I am, sir. Happy to be here.
I'm glad you are. All right, man. It is Thankful Thursday. Butters and Lee, hit it. All right, for the benefit of our audience, so the way we work this is in two rounds. Butters and Lee, I start off with, I have questions for them. We come back, and then they ask me questions, and I just hope I got an answer. So, you guys, here's my first question. Right now, the Trump administration has deployed 700 U.S. Marines, upwards of 4,000 National Guardsmen, just to the streets of Los Angeles. Let me ask you, I just want to get your thoughts. How do you feel about seeing the U.S. military taking the streets of U.S. cities? Lee, you first.
I am glad that he is sending more backup for the National Guard. And I say this because Americans need to be protected. And I think he had a bit of he wanted to do it back during the protests back in 2020, I believe.
Yeah. But
didn't, was held back. And I think he learned that just allowing cities to burn because the governors were happy to let it happen isn't helping the American people. So I think Trump this time is like, we're going to protect Americans, whether you, Gavin Newsom, or whoever, want to or not. You may think your city's burning is okay, but I don't. And also, he's trying to protect ICE agents who are under attack, as well as federal buildings. Yeah, so I think it's needed, and I think it's ultimately going to be successful.
No, okay. Listen, I won't try to. Let me get Butters in there first, and I'll throw my commentary on top of it. But Butters, what do you think, man? Especially you having a military background, and I think you've been out in California a bit. What are your thoughts on the U.S. military being called into U.S. cities?
Well, first, all I can picture is the Marines, especially watching the videos of them getting their training with the giant shields, is watching the movie 300 on loop,
yeah,
getting those guys fired up. I think the Marine Corps is a phenomenal tool for breaking things. So I hope they cooler heads, prevail in whatever engagement they end up in, and I'm sure they'll be more than professional. But that's pretty hardcore tool.
Yeah,
I guess I'd say the argument that I would have would be, are we ever going to let the Californians actually learn their lesson? Because at the end of the day, I understand the concept of protecting Americans, but at the local level, the real responsibility is on the local politicians. And if you continue to put these yahoos in, then your city's going to burn. And I don't know. I think there is an argument to be had.
Wow.
That it's probably not a good use of federal resources. Obviously the protection of ICE agents and federal agents aside.
Well, but there's a lot of innocent bystanders too. I mean, there's a lot of people that don't agree with this or don't participate in the rioting, and their businesses are the ones getting burned. I mean, so I would have to think there's some of that. But I hear what you're saying. So you're saying if we had to pull it out for tough love. But I think that I don't know, that might be cutting off our nose to spite our face if we did that. So I don't know that would be the wise way to do it. And you know what? And bottom line is, Butters, I think if we did that, if the Trump administration pulled back, then they'd be accused of pulling back. I mean, it's like,
Yeah, you can't win. You can't win.
well,
And you might as well not try. You might as well not try.
no doubt.
That is a very that's a very solid argument as well. So it is kind of a darned if you do, darned if you don't. So I think it's going to work out well.
Well, I think it's going to work out well, and I tell you what we got to do too is find out who's funding it, because some of the stuff that happens, like when you see the guy who pulls up and he's got hundreds of face shields for people and he starts giving them out. Okay, where'd that come from? What money did you use? One of the major organizations, by the way, out there in California called CHRLA, which I've forgotten what all it stands for, but it basically is an illegal immigration rights group. They were given $32 million by the state of California, and they're one of the ones organizing protests. So you look at it and go, wow, I wonder if the people whose cars were being burned were aware that they paid to have the cars burned.
And that group was the one who was funding that phone number where you could call and state, hey, ICE agents are raiding here.
Oh, really?
And yes, and Karen Bass in one of her, I think it is, Karen Bass in one of her press conferences was basically saying, yeah, you can call this number and report where ICE agents are they're literally working directly against the federal government. And the thing is, Americans there deserve protection the same as Americans everywhere. And it's not fair to say, let them fall in a hole and it'll teach them a lesson. There's more Republicans in the state of California than any other state. Let's not forget. And they're not the only one that deserves protection. But we do need to, I think they're going to see a benefit from it. If we're removing a lot of the, illegal immigrants, especially from California, they're getting a whole lot less influence and seats in the Senate. Eventually they will lose seats. I mean, they're already going to. But you see what I'm saying? Like this is important.
I tell you what we can look at though is we can also try to see if we could send them the bill for it. State of California, if we're going to fuss about us having to send the National Guard, guess what? We're going to make you pay for it. But what are you about to say, Butters?
Well, I was just going to say, you're talking about all the funding and all that kind of stuff. That's one. I think anyone that's with the FBI doesn't need to be involved in anything that's going on in the streets right now and dealing with little rioters and that kind of stuff. They need to be investigating, doing what the FBI is able to do, and investigate the big level crime, which is all the funding sources. And go get after that, because that's what's going to fix this.
Cash Patel did say that is a focus right now. They are working on that. All right, hey, let me get to the next question before we run out of time. So let's go ahead and keep Los Angeles on the brain for a minute. So Secretary of Department of Homeland Security Kristi Noem is out in L.A. She's doing a press conference today about the issues that we're talking about. And the senior U.S. senator, I don't know of him until now, but Alex Padilla is the U.S. senior senator from the state of California. He had to be forcibly removed. I mean, I've seen the video. I'm watching. It's on the screen right now. He had to be forcibly removed from the room, lunging at the microphone, then started fighting with security and police. They took him out in the hallway, and I'm watching it. They actually got him on the floor and cuffed him because he kept resisting arrest. And he's now been released. But give me your thoughts on this. I mean, we got that knucklehead, Alex Padilla, today. We've got Maxine Waters taunting law enforcement, saying, what are you going to do? Shoot me in the face? Come on and shoot me in the face. Why don't you? Congresswoman LaMonica McIver indicted for accosting police officers at the ICE facility. You got, what's his name, Al Green, screaming at Trump during the State of the Union. What is going on with Democrats? Why don't they just oust these people from their positions? All right, that was a long diatribe, but I'm going Butters first on this one.
Well, first, I think they're playing a narrative that is clearly is leaning towards their whatever you want to call it, their base now. They're people that are going to get fired up about this. Unfortunately, they don't understand. They don't actually have any special rights. Even as a senator, as a congressman, they don't get to just walk in to any federal or any other government entity. They don't have any special rights. That would be the same as you and I walking into a session of Congress and demanding to get answers because they work for us, because we're the citizens.
Yeah.
That's not the way this works, guys, and you just show your ignorance. But again, I think they're just doing it to get the video clip that's going to go viral and get people fired up.
All right, Lee, what do you think?
I think that they're becoming more irrelevant day to day to day, and that scares them more than anything. And what they're trying to do is look at me, look at me, look at how I'm standing up to the man, and we hate Trump. And they're just trying to stir this orange man bad sentiment over and over and over. Every single one of them that commits a crime should be arrested. They should be taken to jail, and I want a full cavity search of every one of those suckers. I mean, it's deserved.
So Lee is demanding a full body cavity search for Maxine Waters. That's what I just heard. That's awful.
All of them. Al Green.
Now,
Let's look and see what's in that cane at the end. I bet there's an alcohol.
That may be a good use of the Marine Corps.
Oh my gosh.
Let those guys take care of them.
Holy cow. All right. Well, all right. Before we start an international incident and get thrown off the air, let's go ahead and take a break. We'll take the break right now. That's round one. Butters and Lee coming right back. Round two, they asked me the questions, and I just hope I have an answer. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. Making common sense like a superpower. All right, so we're going back right now to round 2 of Butters and Lee. This is the round where we flip the script and they ask me questions. I don't know in advance what's coming. I'm going to say, Butters, you first this time, brother. What you got?
All right. So Rand Paul and Thomas Massey seem to be getting picked on as Republicans. And I'm curious what your thoughts are on is that good for America, and are the attacks against them, are they being intellectually honest about really where these guys stand?
Are the attacks intellectually honest, or are they intellectually honest? What are you saying?
The attacks against them intellectually honest?
No, not entirely. So here's the caveat I would say to that. It is absolutely true that Rand Paul and Thomas Massey have a different view of the big, beautiful bill right now than what the Trump administration and many other Republicans in D.C. want. So there's that. And then the pressure they're feeling by the rhetoric is to be expected, because the narrow majority is so narrow that their vote may wind up being necessary. However, I will say this. They've got what I call a principled stand. There does not appear to be any guile here. There does not appear to be somebody who they're holding out for that thing they want. They're not trying to get that special select assignment. They're not looking for that little bit of pork put in the bill on their behalf. They're literally holding out on principle. It's hard to argue with that. And especially when it's a principle that I agree with. Now, in the end, I'll be honest with you, I'm already supportive of this big, beautiful bill. I think it's going to have to pass. I think the big, beautiful bill actually has a lot of tax cuts in it that are not being given enough credit. And I think we're also going to see the biggest tax raise in U.S. history if we don't get it passed, because the Trump tax cuts that were about to expire would then expire, and we would all see major, major tax increases. And then there's all kinds of things in there for border security and stuff like that. I think it's good. It's good as it's going to get. The thing that I found sometimes in politics is you have to recognize that every once in a while, your 80% friend is better than your 100% enemy. And so is it a disingenuous attack? It's not disingenuous, because they absolutely disagree. But I will say this, Massey and Rand Paul, they're holding out on a principle, and that's a little bit different. And I never even minded debating Democrats who actually had principled positions on their own side. But I can always see the opportunists and the ones who are just making themselves out there for a soundbite. There's my answer.
It's just frustrating to hear you're all about open borders. No, that's not what they're saying.
They're not for open borders. Neither one of them are. But both of them are extremely fiscally conservative, and they're standing on that. All right. Before I run out of time, though, Lee, what you got?
And I just want to comment, Rand he's put out lists of overspending, and he's always been like this. This isn't all that unusual from what he said in the past. But so the lieutenant governor's race.
Holy cow.
I don't know how much we've talked about it today, because I have been pretty hard at work for the last 2 hours. This Nicole Call Me Dr. Wadsworth has literally imploded.
Yeah.
It's like a cartoon.
Yeah.
Her whole entire campaign staff has quit. Have you ever seen anything like this in the state of Alabama as far as somebody running this kind of spectacular implosion? And do you think it's because she seemed to be, I don't know what word to use for it, uppity, like you better call me doctor type thing? You think that's what really caused this, or was this already on careening path towards destruction?
Well, let's be honest. I mean, even if she hadn't done that, somebody was going to find out sooner or later that she really didn't have a doctorate. So, I mean, bringing it out was a little bit highbrow and ill-advised. But so, yeah, I talked about it a little bit earlier, but to back up the audience, Nicole Wadsworth, who I've known for a bit, just in passing. I don't know her well, but I know her enough to say hey and talk to her. But Nicole Jones, for many years, now married, apparently allegedly married to State Representative Tim Wadsworth. But even most recent, yeah, if you look at the most recent article that just came out on Yellowhammer, her staff quit. They found out that her claimed doctorate from the University of Alabama is really an online paper-only doctorate from some Florida Institute of Technology in theology or something like that, none of which actually is real because it didn't require classroom instruction. And then on top of that, she lied about, or she said she'd never run for office, but she's run twice before. And then now they're saying they can't even find evidence that there's a marriage certificate anywhere in the state records for the marriage. And so the whole thing is just bizarre. It's a
Well, how
self-inflicted
could she call
wound.
herself Wadsworth then? Like, how do you assume the last name if you didn't get married? You'd have to have a legal name change.
I don't know. Maybe they went to Vegas and had Elvis do it, and it just hadn't gotten the paperwork sent to Alabama yet.
At
I don't
this
know.
point?
I don't know. All I know is ain't no way in God's green earth you should ever put yourself out there in the public arena as something that is so obviously not true, because guess what? If it's online, it'll be found out. And if it's not online, it's probably not real these days. So, wow.
How does this make Alabama look on the national stage?
I think it makes us look decent since we found out and got rid of her. I mean, if she had become the lieutenant governor, then we'd be the laughing stock. But right now, I think we're cleaning house, brother. I think, I look at it and go, dang, if she had slipped through, then we'd really have a lot to talk about.
I mean, who runs for office with this many skeletons in their closet? God.
Or maybe the skeletons really aren't in her closet. Maybe she has no closet. We don't even know. I mean, I don't know. But she came to Montgomery quite a bit, and it was always strange. I never understood why. I was never really sure what it was she was doing, because most people would walk in your door and say, Senator, could I have a minute of your time to talk to you about so-and-so bill, and I represent this group or whatever, or you already knew them. She would always come in, and you're never really sure who she represented or why she was there. And here she is running for lieutenant governor, and there's a lot of not there. So, yeah, it's bizarro world. I don't know how to define what's happening there. It's sad, to be honest with you. I mean, we're kind of laughing about it, but it's also sad. There's something about this that is going to be inherently sad when it's over with, and I'm concerned for her if you get down to it. And I guess I should be concerned for Tim Wadsworth, because I don't.
Real.
He's a state rep, and he has issued no statements whatsoever on this. Nothing. Nothing's been said.
Has anyone seen him lately?
Tim, blink 3 times if you need help. I don't know what's going on. All right, Butters and Lee, love you both. Y'all stay tuned. Coming back with Congressman Gary Palmer. We'll be right back. going to bring on somebody right now who's been on the show many times, Congressman Gary Palmer. He represents the 6th District of Alabama. He has been a member of House leadership. He is certainly a conservative. He is the founder of the Alabama Policy Institute, where I actually used to be on staff also. And he is on the line with us right now. Congressman Palmer, how are you today, sir?
Good, Phil. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you for making time, Congressman. And listen, I'm going to dive right in because you guys had quite the hearing today. You're on House Oversight, I understand. And you had 3 sanctuary governors, J.B. Pritzker, Kathy Hochul, and Tim Walz, all sitting in front of you. How did that go down?
Well, I said that going in that this was an 80-20 issue for us, and I think after hearing their testimony, it may have become a 90-10. They were awful. And there's some very serious things that were brought up, and several members, including Elise Stefanik, who waved on to the committee, and several others just started naming the names of victims of violent crimes committed by people who were here illegally. You know, obviously Lincoln Riley and Ruby Garcia, and just you could go down the list. But the point that I wanted to make is that I think that these states that have declared themselves sanctuary states have become a national security issue. We know we've interdicted, for instance, in 2023, over 780 people that had ties to terrorist organizations. That's the ones that they caught at the border. And that was just in 2023. And I want to remind people it only took 19 to carry out the attack on 9/11.
Absolutely.
We estimate there's 2.2 million gotaways. We don't know who those people are. We don't know where they are. There were 400 that were smuggled into the country by a group affiliated with ISIS that's engaged in human trafficking. And they smuggled 400 in, and not all of those have been apprehended. Excuse me. That is a huge problem. And when you would think the states that have declared themselves sanctuary states, that would be a natural place for these people to go and just blend into the communities there. So I also pointed out that just during Biden's 4 years in office, 14.7 million, counting the 2.2 million gotaways, came into the country from 165, at least 165 different countries. We don't know who all's in that group, but if just 1/2, Phil, just 0.5%, 1/2 of 1% of those have ties to criminal organizations or terrorist organizations, that's more people than the combined active duty forces of our Army and Marines.
Wow, that's sobering. Yeah, that's extremely
it ought to
sobering.
be.
Yeah, it is. And it's, you know, and we can look back over the last 4 years, and you and I both know, and so do so many, that the open borders was an intentional thing. There's no way it couldn't have been intentional. But what?
Oh, it was intentional.
The sanctuary policies of these states. So you had Minnesota, Illinois, and New York governors sitting in front of you today. What did they have to say for themselves as y'all questioned them on their policies? I mean, did they give any reasonable excuse by which they could somehow justify their actions?
No. They tried to say, well, you know, we're obeying the law. And I pointed out, no, you're not. I mean, Article 6 of the Constitution has the supremacy clause. And it's quite clear that federal law is supreme over state and local law. And when they announced that they intended to declare themselves a sanctuary state, they literally announced they intended to violate federal law.
Yeah.
So they're engaged in a felony obstruction of justice, and all 3 of them are. But the other thing too is when I brought up the, you know, potential for harboring terrorists, a lot of these terrorist groups come in and they just blend into the culture. They have regular jobs, or they may be eating in the same restaurant with you. You just never think anything about it because we don't know who's here, and it puts tremendous strain on our law enforcement to really prevent another 9/11 type attack. So that's what really worries me, Phil, is that there's going to be some people that just come out of the woodwork. And
Yeah.
I mean, the attack against those Jewish demonstrators out in Colorado was a terrorist attack.
Absolutely.
That guy's here illegally. Now, nobody would have thought that he would have done anything, but he decided to set these people on fire.
Well, Congressman, let me ask you this hearing y'all had today at Oversight, did these three governors, did they show up willingly? Were they subpoenaed? How did it come about that they were there, and did they come in with an attitude? Did they come in prepared to dialogue as best possible?
Well, I don't know about Hochul, but Pritzker and Waltz are running for president. Excuse me. And so I think they thought they were going to come in and solidify their base, and that's really the answers they gave to me and to the others, that Republicans indicated to me that this was all about them showing how far left and radical they really are on this issue. Because here's the dilemma the Democrats find themselves in. Like I said, this is an 80-20 issue with most voters, but that 20% is the Democrat base, and no person running for the nomination for the presidency in the Democrat Party can win without that 20% base. That's just how far left the Democratic Party's gone and how crazy they've gotten. And then they brought up this thing about the National Guard and possibly active duty Marines being brought into Los Angeles. Well, I did an interview with Fox News today, and I pointed out that you look at what happened in the wake of the George Floyd murder, what happened in Minneapolis, what happened in Seattle, what happened in Portland, Washington, D.C., and other cities around the country. They literally destroyed businesses, attacked people. It was chaos. It was lawlessness. And I think President Trump is smart enough to learn from history to not let it repeat itself.
No, absolutely. And never mind the fact that the law actually affords the president the right to do this. I mean, you may have posse comitatus, but you have the right to suspend posse comitatus if there's, the Insurrection Act, or if there's a threat to life, limb, or property, or if there's an inability or unwillingness on the part of local and state law enforcement to do their jobs. What they forget is Californians, for instance, in Los Angeles, those are not just Newsom's constituents. They're actually Donald Trump's constituents, too. He has a right to preserve what is going on there as much as anybody else.
Well, the thing about this, again, that I think people need to take into account, this is an all-out assault against U.S. law, against our ability, our right and our responsibility to secure our border, to force people to abide by federal law. And now you've got a situation where not only are people coming across, that you had people that came across the border illegally, you've now got elected officials that are undermining our national security by defending these people and opposing efforts to enforce federal law. We can't continue to exist as a nation if we don't have laws that everyone will abide by.
No, and speaking of which, these elected officials that are acting out, you've got Representative LaMonica McIver, who was indicted just in the last 48 hours, officially indicted by grand jury for obstruction of justice and for assaulting police officers in New Jersey. And then you've got Maxine Waters hollering at going to riots and hollering at law enforcement to shoot her in the face and see if they want to try. And then you've got Al Green standing up and screaming on the House floor during the State of the Union address. And then today, I know we talked offline. You weren't aware yet about Senator Alex Padilla, but he tried to storm the press conference being held by Secretary Noem, and that didn't go well. And he got arrested and taken down. They have lost their ever-loving minds.
Yeah, and it's amazing to me. And if you go back and listen to the questions and the comments made by the Democrats on the Oversight Committee, it was attacking the tax cuts that we're trying to pass to avoid a $4.5 trillion tax increase, which would start January 1st of next year. They're attacking gun issues. I mean, it was all over the place, and it was just a smorgasbord of left-wing radical rhetoric.
Well, that's all they've got right now. They don't have leadership. They don't have an agenda. They have no policies. Their principles are watered down to the point that they're non-existent. And so all they've got is rhetoric. There was an old saying I remember in law school. They taught us that if the facts are in your favor, argue the facts, and if the law's in your favor, argue the law. If nothing's in your favor, you just bang the podium, do the best you can. And that's where they are right now.
Yeah. Well, they'd be better off just pounding the table and not saying anything.
At this point. Well, by the way, what's the buzz among your peers about Representative Congresswoman McIver being indicted? Is this being talked about much? Is it even much of a buzz?
No, nobody's talked about it to me.
Yeah, I just wonder if it's going to be one of those things that becomes a nothing burger, and she'll probably use it as a campaign ad. But
well, her district probably works for her.
Yeah, it might work for her. It's exactly right. Newark, New Jersey. Well, Congressman, was there anything conclusive that came out of today's hearing today with the three governors? By the way, were they the only three witnesses, or were there anybody else that was there too?
No, the Democrats brought in somebody else that hardly anything was directed to the individual. And when it was more left-wing agenda, socialist agenda. They kept talking about people being picked up and families being separated. And I'm sitting there thinking about Lincoln Riley and Ruby Garcia and Jocelyn Nungery. And I'm thinking, they may have been separated, but they're alive.
That's right.
And then this idea that, well, there are more people murdered by American citizens than by illegals. Well, while that's true and a total number, but I will argue that none of the people murdered by illegals would have died if those people had not been allowed in the country.
That's exactly right.
So it's not only a nonsensical argument, it's insulting to the families who are still grieving over the loss of their loved ones who were killed at the hands of people who should never have been here.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Congressman, we got to leave it there. I appreciate your time, and thanks for giving us the kind of the red hot update on how the hearing went just this very day. More to come, and we'll have you back on again soon. Okay.
Well, it's actually still going on. So.
Yep, they are.
I appreciate you having me on.
Thank you, Congressman. Take care. Have a great day.
All right.
That is Congressman Gary Palmer representing Alabama's 6th Congressional District. He's a member of House Oversight. They had the committee hearing today with Tampon Tim Waltz and J.B. Pritzker and Kathy Hochul, 3 governors who have basically sanctuary states, who had nothing much to say in defense of why they have sanctuary states, except they just want to have sanctuary states. Take it to a break there, JP. We'll take that break. We'll come right back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid conservative, just plain right. Just saving the world one soundbite at a time. I'm actually just rather put out by you right now, JP. I am now hungry for a McDonald's biscuit. We sat here talking about our favorite fast food, breakfast food.
Yeah, and how I don't think a corporation has done something that's impacted me as much as McDonald's getting rid of their all-day breakfast in COVID.
All-day breakfast?
I couldn't get a McGriddle at like 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock or even like 10 o'clock at night.
McGriddle is good food. That's just good food.
Not great for you, but it's good food, yeah.
Well, but you know what? And this is, okay, travel tip for those of y'all that drive and wind up eating your breakfast. A McGriddle sandwich from McDonald's does not crumble all over you while you drive.
Nope, it's like little pancake buns with syrup.
Yes.
Syrup in the bun. It's great.
Even branded with the big M.
Oh yeah, it's great.
I don't know who invented that, but it's genius.
Well, I wish they bring it back for all day instead of just breakfast time, because that's screwed up.
All right, we're starting an online petition.
Yes, I guarantee.
McDonald's and by the way, while we're at it, can we go ahead and have Chick-fil-A bring back carrot and raisin salad?
See, I never ate that one, so I guess
he probably went away before you were born. But anyway, I've been mad for years. Let me get a couple of text messages real quick. And by the way, I'll remind you guys, I'll be stepping out of the studio here momentarily. I'm doing a live interview on News Nation regarding the military being used in the riot control. So I'll be stepping out. JP has got the con. He'll handle the last few minutes of the show. Yellow Dog Mike is checking in. Yellow Dog Mike. He says, you guys are going to lose big time in the midterms. Come join us in the No Kings demonstration on Saturday. You'll see a different crowd. You got to... There it is. Yellow Dog, don't let me see you on the news. Don't let me see you doing something. Don't be burning no cars. Don't be lighting things up, and keep the language civil. Remember, there might be kids watching. Just saying.
I am going to be in Huntsville on Saturday. Should I do like a man on the street sort of thing for?
Listen, man. There may be a thing here.
I'd have to, I guess there's a safety issue here too. Of if I go and start asking them, questions they don't like.
Wear your right side ruffian shirt when you go.
Now that will be a big old bullseye on my back. So.
John from Huntsville checking in saying, JP, there are other restaurants that have all-day breakfast.
Yeah, but they don't have McGriddles.
They don't have McGriddles.
That's the whole point.
There's not a McDonald's that has an all-day breakfast.
I mean, I can go make my own pancakes whenever I want. I can't make a McGriddle. However, I think Walmart does sell McGriddles though. They're not branded as McDonald's, but they have like off-brand pancake buns like that. So
with the syrup built in?
I think so. I believe so.
How about this? If we went to McDonald's, could we just buy a batch of McGriddle bread and take it home?
You probably could, yeah.
Hi, I'm in your drive-thru right now. No, I don't want to use the app. I would like 10 of your McGriddles.
That's fine. McDonald's is the only restaurant that asks you that every time.
Why do you do that?
Like, you using the app today? If I was, I wouldn't be here. No.
That's exactly right. Sir, are you going to use the McDonald's app today? Well, I'm in your drive-thru.
Yeah.
So no. I don't get it. All that, and they stopped serving all-day breakfast. How do we get on this topic? You're just totally confusing me right now. I was going to talk about something related to illegal immigration, but I guess now I'm headed to a break.
Yeah.
All right, I'm stepping out of the studio. JP has the con. I'm thankful for you on Thankful Thursday, JP. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Rightside Radio, folks. Phil just stepped out to do a news appearance, and so to finish out the show, you got JP here. He may pop back up whenever he's done if he finishes before the show and chit-chat with me for a little bit, but y'all are stuck with me the rest of the show. But we do have Jeff from Indiana on the line here, so it's not just me to end the show. Jeff, what's going on, man?
Hey, JP. Well, I'm coming to an abrupt halt right here in the middle of Nashville, so business as usual.
I was gonna say, well, what else is new? If you didn't have that, then it wouldn't be a normal day.
That's true. Thank goodness today's my Friday. I won't have to deal with it tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, that's the Nashville traffic. You got to show up to like one of their city council meetings or something and complain about their lack of efficient traffic control.
They're probably the ones behind all of it. I imagine.
Yeah.
You never know.
What's on your mind, man?
They're probably no better driver than the rest of them.
That's true.
Hey, you talking about going to the? I think they're having the No Kings protest there in Huntsville. I guess.
Yep.
This weekend, or
they do.
Well, I think we need a counter protest. I guess their little logo is a crown with a slash through it.
Mm-hmm.
I think you need to show up down there with a brain on your shirt with a slash to it, and have the no brains protest, because these people have no brains whatsoever.
Well, so was it Matt Walsh that had the movie where he acted like he was a DEI like expert or something and was undercover? Maybe I should go undercover as a liberal and partake in this No Kings protest. See how long it takes for them to notice that I'm not actually a liberal.
Well, that would work, and everything. Hey, can you locate a purple wig or anything? Something like that would probably work.
Just buy me a
you gotta blend
purple
in,
wig,
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be fun. Maybe Rightside needs to have a man on the street stuff like that. But however, I worry if this one in Huntsville is going to get out of hand, because I don't know if you remember in 2020 they had a big protest, the Black Lives Matter protest, and they had to deploy tear gas. So, but the problem is, I don't think they're Huntsville citizens, obviously, but I think there's these people that are getting imported in from other places, getting paid to go and cause chaos. I worry, because I know Huntsville doesn't have many of those people amongst themselves. I worry if some people are going to be headed to Huntsville this weekend just to wreak chaos.
Yeah, I mean, Alabama as a whole don't have that many people to show up that many protests and everything, I don't believe. But it's like you say, they bust them in, and it's chaos. They try to make, and the trouble is also the media, because if you have a protest of some kind and everything with a few hundred people, they will say, well, there's just a few people there and everything. They could have a protest with 2 people there, and they'd say, oh, this massive protest, and make national news with like a half a dozen people.
Yeah, the right doesn't get the mostly peaceful, the January 6th wasn't called a mostly peaceful insurrection. It was called the worst insurrection, like the worst day in American history, the worst day for democracy. But yet we got this L.A. almost burning to the ground, it seems. It's mostly peaceful. And then we got, Newsom suing the federal government over trying to protect the city. It's amazing to me, but also it's extremely manufactured. Like this is intentional. All of this, it's not by accident. They're intentionally telling people to go across the state. Do you think it's a coincidence that these No Kings protests are happening like 4 or 5 days after the LA riots started? I think the LA riots are going to be a kickstart for this No Kings protest. I hope not, but that's kind of what it seems like to me. It seems like it's not coincidence that the timing of all of this.
And I'm not even sure they know what they're even protesting against.
They don't.
No king and everything, If, like I said, I think Donald Trump said the other day, if he was a king, he wouldn't have to worry about all this Congress and everything passing the big beautiful bill and everything else. So
I know he's
I don't think
a
he's quite
lousy
the dictator
king.
they think he is.
A lousy king if he's having to get Thomas Massey and Rand Paul to get on board. Like he wouldn't have that issue if he was truly a king. It's embarrassing. But you said they don't even know why they're protesting. That's like the LA riots, a hometown local sushi shop got robbed. It's like, I thought we were protesting against ICE. How does a sushi shop down the road getting robbed have anything to do with anti-ICE protests? It's just an excuse to wreak havoc, just like BLM was in 2020.
And maybe that's a thing to do. Maybe need to put out a news story that Donald Trump is the loudest dictator ever on the face of the earth, because he can't can't do what he exactly wants to do because people are stopping him. And it's not a very good dictator.
No, he's not. It's not a textbook. Yeah, I don't remember any of the past dictators or kings having to run anything through their Congress or Parliament. Like it's a joke, but they're unserious. So anything Trump does that they don't like, he's a king, and he's just like this military parade going on. It's like Donald Trump throwing himself a military parade, just like Kim Jong-un and Putin. And God forbid we have a parade celebrating our army. It's all about dictator. It's just more evidence that Trump's a dictator. It's just the rhetoric is so tiresome and exhausting at this point.
Yeah. Some people you wonder if they're ignorant, and then they open their mouth, and then it clarifies it all that yes they are, and that's what we're seeing with the left right now. Just like this senator, I guess, that ran in there talking today, and he's they threw him to the ground and this, that, and everything else. Well, and his next his next conference, somebody needs to go running up to him, and everything, and act like they're wanting to talk. He said he wasn't allowed to speak. And see what happens to this person who runs up toward him, unannounced and not knowing who they are, and see what happens to them. And then they can afterwards say, "Well, I just wanted to talk to you, no big deal."
Yeah, I wonder if 4 years ago, if Mayorkas was doing a press conference, and then you had a senator, I don't know, or a congressman. How about Marjorie Taylor Greene? Marjorie Taylor Greene goes barging in and starts yelling like Padilla did. She would have been thrown to the ground. I guarantee you they would have been calling for her to be censured already. They would have been calling for her to be thrown under the bus. Like the hypocrisy is crazy. Like if a Republican did that during Biden's presidency, they'd be tarred and feathered. Absolutely 100%.
Well, I'm not sure you could throw Marjorie Taylor Greene to the ground too hard, because what that one congresswoman call her about her body and everything.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, you cannot
got
throw
a man body or whatever. Yeah, you're not going to throw Marjorie Taylor Greene to the ground very easily, I don't believe.
No, I don't think so. But I mean, it's all on footage. Like I've already seen, Bongino put up something about it's on footage. He assaulted a police officer, resisted arrest, and like that is by the book illegal. So I don't understand the reasoning the Democrats could have to argue for him, but obviously they don't need reasoning at all. They'll just say it, but it's like, it's on footage, dude. It's on footage. This isn't some political, thing. It's on footage at what you did. So it's just like McIver too. It's on footage what she did. She can't argue she didn't do it. It's not political. We saw it.
I think he should be charged myself. I mean, for doing what he did, and then if he resisted arrest and everything, hey, he's no different than you and me when he's outside the well of the Congress.
Yeah.
He's not got immunity then. So just like if you got a DUI or anything else, he should be held accountable for his actions, just like any other person of the United States. Equal justice should be equal justice.
I agree 100%. Well, we'll see where it goes, man. We'll see if he gets charged. But I'm going to go ahead and read some text messages before we take it to a break. But appreciate you calling in. Hope you get through that Trashville traffic sometime soon.
I'm working on it. You all have a great day.
All right, man. See ya.
See ya.
All right, let's get some text messages here real quick. Let's see. We read Yellow Dog Mike. Let's see. Michael from Arab said, "Why does this radio show only take one live caller a day and it's always the same guy? Is he a brother or a good friend of Phil's?" Well, Jeff from Indiana is a friend of the radio show 100%, but we currently are waiting for our old phone number to be imported into our new phone system. Our phones got fried during the storms 2 weeks ago, so we've been having to get a completely new phone system. We have a temporary number right now we've given to our regular callers so that they can use and to give to guests. But we don't want to release it out to the listeners because we're waiting to get our old number back, so everything could just be easier. So any day now, we should be importing this new number, and everybody will be able to call in like usual. But in the meantime, Jeff from Indiana, being a friend of the show, he's got the temporary number to call in. Any day now. We got Tim Swine from Berkeley, Alabama, said Huntsville is now a majority liberal city. In 2020, the police were ready with dump trucks and buses blocking roads, and the protesters were dealt with quick and firm and was cold pretty quick. HSV will handle it way different than California. I agree. Listen, I was born and raised in Huntsville. Huntsville is my home, and I know that Huntsville is not anywhere near a blue city. that's kind of validating my argument of these people came from outside of Huntsville. Like, these people came in to cause chaos in Huntsville and were probably paid agitators to do so. And I agree. And listen, here's the other thing about Huntsville that's different than California. I guarantee you there's a bunch of Second Amendment loving Huntsvillians that will do what it takes to protect their city, unlike Los Angeles, where that's absolutely not the case at all. So yeah, I agree with you 100%. Trust me, I know. And listen, I was worried with all the people coming into Huntsville, and we're about to have some more with FBI moving even more, agents to Huntsville. I was worried with all these people coming in that it would start to become more purple, and that was not the case. I think Huntsville was even more red this past election with the more people that came in than in 2020. So trust me, I know. I know Huntsville is definitely not anywhere near a liberal city, but we'll see. I don't think, or let's say I hope that this No Kings protest in Huntsville doesn't get out of hand quickly. But if it does, it won't be from Huntsvillians. It'll be from people outside that came in. Got John from Huntsville. JP, I have 2 10-gallon buckets full of golf balls. Okay, so if you need to throw something at the protesters who might be throwing bricks at you, I can help you out. Well, I'm only about 5 minutes away from where this is going to take place. Yeah, I will be in Huntsville this weekend for Father's Day, so I will be up there. I'll be on the golf course, though, so no, I won't be anywhere near the protest. But thanks. It's good to know, John. It's good to know if I'm in Huntsville and need some protecting that you got 10-gallon buckets of golf balls I can go take care of. We got Nick from Harvest, governor worker here, and we got an email this week telling us about protests from our security office. Normally there are warnings and messages to stay clear. This one was just the name of the protest, No Kings, and where the protest will be. Seems like whoever wrote that email is just advertising the event. Not too happy about that one. It does. That does kind of seem like they're just advertising the event. Why is the federal government just simply advertising, that this protest is taking place? That is disappointing. I agree with that. Brian from Harvest, real quick, we'll go to the break. He said, lib hunting season? No, I'd say defending your city from liberal crazies. Please do not go hunting for liberals. However, I would say if you're in a position where, God forbid, it's, protect yourself. Yeah, stay on your ground, but please don't go lib hunting. No, don't go lib hunting. One more, Badger from Athens. Need to go to one of these protests with a bunch of air tags and tag these people, then have a lib tracker website. You guys are crazy. All right, we're going to a break before y'all get us in trouble. We'll be right back. Like I said, Phil is off doing a media appearance right now. We'll see if it's over by the time the show's, before the show's over, he'll pop back up. But in the meantime, this is JP, Rightside Radio. We'll be right back. Welcome back, folks, to Rightside Radio, where it's always solid conservative and just plain right. Well, Phil had to step out. He is currently making a media appearance talking about these LA riots, so I'll be ending the show today. But I know Phil wanted to talk about this during the show. He wasn't able to get to it before he had to dip out, but the situation in the Middle East is starting to heat up again, and I think it's important to talk about real quick before we end the show. Trump yesterday, as he was going to the Kennedy Center, was asked about this. He was asked about, what's going on, in the Middle East, because there's been a bunch of reports about non-essentials, being pulled out from, the embassies in the Middle East and, being placed on a high alert overall, and something concerning Iran. And Trump was asked about it, and Trump said, well, you'll just have to wait and see. Iran will not be allowed to have a nuclear weapon, and pretty much indicated, without saying it, that something's going on with Iran. And Israel may be striking soon. We don't know. We don't know what sort of U.S. involvement will be with Israel's strike against Iran if it were to come. There's a lot, obviously nothing has happened yet, so please, keep praying that nothing will happen. But it appears right now that the nuclear talks with Iran have completely fallen through, and Trump said something too last week about how Iran is some of the best negotiators on planet Earth, it seems, and it looks like they're firm on having a nuclear weapon. And there's no solid, reports about how far they actually are to have, or close they are to getting a nuclear weapon. But Pete Hegseth himself confirmed that they are working towards having a nuclear weapon right now. So I know Trump has been working tirelessly to get a deal done with Iran so that they won't have nuclear weapons and this could be handled peacefully. However, it may be, the tide may be turning and peace may be no longer an option if Iran's not willing to budge, and Israel may be striking some nuclear facilities in Iran soon. But like I said, it hasn't happened yet, so continue to pray that peace prevails. But right now, that is currently the situation with Iran in the Middle East. And can I just say, too, God bless Donald Trump, because he has been working tirelessly to get peaceful, resolutions like this done. I don't think people understand how hard it is to do so, especially when the past administration dug him into such a deep hole with the Ukraine-Russia war, this Middle East situation where Iran was completely enabled to get to this position by the Biden administration. Iran was dead broke when President Trump was in office in 2017 or 2016. Completely dead broke during his entire administration. And I believe, if I remember correctly, I think Iran gained about $3 billion in their GDP after Trump left office during the Biden administration. So Iran was completely unable to get into this position right now. But the Trump administration has been working tirelessly to get a deal done with Iran. But we'll see. Hopefully, something can happen. The tables can turn and we can come back to the table. Right now, just want to give you all a heads up and update on that something with Israel and Iran could be imminent. But let's see what the news prevails there. We got John from Huntsville, Lee, and Butters and Phil get an A+ for their equally amazing performances. Jeff from Indiana and Congressman Gary Palmer both get an A++ for their spectacular performances, which means today's winner, with a perfect A++, is once again the King of Gen Z, JP. By the way, JP, you should wear a T-shirt in Huntsville that says King of Gen Z. Hey, I mean, I don't want to be the self-declared king of Gen Z, but if John thinks that I'm the king of Gen Z, then maybe I need to get a T-shirt like that. Get a little plaque to put on my desk as King of Gen Z. Maybe show up to the No Kings protest with a little shirt that says King of Gen Z there. We'll see, but I appreciate you, John. Also, real quick, before the show ends, we do have the first Doge cuts have been codified, they passed the House. Hopefully they'll get codified when they pass the Senate. But $9 billion has been officially passed the House. 9.4 billion, I think, to be exact, and this includes NPR, PBS cuts, and such. But it was not easy, though. We'll see if this, faces any opposition in the Senate. But the first Doge cuts have been passed from the House, and this is also coming, at the whirlwinds of we've got some friction between. Jump in if you want, Phil. We got some friction between Rand Paul and Thomas Massie and the Trump administration about the big, beautiful bill, but I think this is good progress with the Doge cuts being passed first. But we'll see. Let's go on to the Senate. What's up, Phil?
What's happening, JP?
How was the news appearance?
Well, I got part of my time bumped by the mayor of Los Angeles, who did a press conference, which I could sum up for you by saying Trump bad, and Trump bad.
As usual.
So I got about 3 or 4 minutes to tell them why Trump not bad, Democrats messed up, and military can actually be used under Title X to secure the streets.
That seems like common sense to me.
I
but
just,
there you go.
but they did tell me that I was contradicting General Wes Clark, and I'm okay with that because he's a freaking Democrat.
General Wes Clark. So they brought the military guy on to say.
They did. Of course, they brought me on as the military/lawyer who's also deployed for a riot before, so I kind of had my own view.
You would think, yeah. I heard we got about 30 seconds left here, by the way.
All right, brother. Thank you for holding down the fort. I'm
no
thankful for you on Thankful Thursday.
Thankful for you on this Thankful Thursday.
Absolutely. Well, I guess then we're heading out. I'll just say to the audience, I'm thankful for all of y'all, more than you could possibly know. And listen, we got a great team here at Rightside. We prove it out every single day. Go check out our stuff at rightsidemedia.org. And in the meantime, I will tell you, like the lovely Charlene always says, that there are indeed more of us than there are of them. God is still very much on his throne, and y'all just need to stay in the fight because that's the only way we win. What's that phrase my pastor said?
If you don't lose, you win. Or if you don't quit, you win.
That's right. You don't quit, you win. All right, you guys. Y'all have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow.